Wouldn't it be nice to have several thought leaders in your industry know and love your brand? Start a podcast. Invite your industry's thought leaders to be guests on your show and start reaping the benefits of having a network full of industry influencers. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm Jonathan Green.
And I'm James Carberry.
Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. We are here today with Robert Carroll. He is the CMO at Protagonist. Robert, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, James. How are you?
I am fantastic. So, Robert, we were talking offline, and I'm really excited to chat with you about this topic. We're going to be talking about the rise of narrative analytics in marketing. I think our listeners are going to get a ton of value out of it. But before we do, could you tell us a little bit about Protagonist and what you and your team are up to over there?
Sure. So Protagonist is the leader in narrative analytics, and we actually go out into the great webosphere and find out what people are really believing. You know, unlike traditional social listening, we go out and we explore the full narratives of what people are discussing and get out their key and true beliefs.
I love it. Your company is, it's not, a startup that started, in the last couple of years. You guys have been around for a while. Can you explain to us a little bit of the history of the company? And I think that will help as we dive deeper into this topic.
Sure. So we're a company formerly known as Monitor 360 and have a 10-year legacy. A lot of our work started with the government and working with the White House to go out and explore the narratives that are happening, stories that are being told about the United States, in countries around the world, in order for the White House and the president to be able to engage with those people with their true beliefs. Over the last few years, we've taken that level of knowledge, level of training, level of both social science and data science, and applied technology to it, and have actually built out a narrative analytics platform, which is a combination of natural language processing, big data, and machine learning, and allows us to go out and look at the narratives of what people are discussing around specific brands, and to do that at scale.
Okay. And so just so I can have a deeper understanding of this, Robert. So you said it's not the same as social listening. So is that because you guys are taking the data the narrative that you're seeing being told about a particular brand on social, and you're combining it with the blogs that are being written about them, and what are the other data points that you guys are tapping into to see a more holistic version of that narrative?
Sure. So we're very agnostic when it comes to data sources, so we can trap the whole, we go out and, look at the whole set, or even look at data that's provided to us by a customer, both structured and unstructured, in order to get at these true narratives. I think where it's different from, traditional market research, like you would see, media monitoring or people doing focus groups or surveys, is those things can be inherently biased. The fact that you assemble questions, the fact that you assemble a group that you pay and feed M&Ms to at a certain time, those create inherent biases. So people will say things, and I think the most recent U.S. election is a good indicator, where you had polls and surveys that clearly showed Donald Trump as the loser and Hillary Clinton as the winner, but at the end of the day, that wasn't the outcome. I think people don't necessarily express their true beliefs unless they feel they're in a safe place, in a place where others maybe don't believe they're being monitored.
Okay. And so can you share some stories, Robert, of maybe a customer story or a way that you guys have leveraged this technology for your own brand? I'd love for listeners to be able to understand the power of having access to the narrative analytics that you guys have at your fingertips. What kind of benefit comes from having this data?
Sure. I'll give it a good example. Charles Schwab is a customer of ours, and when most people build out marketing strategies or messaging platforms, as I said, they use traditional market research, or often the case is they'll use gut and intuition to determine what those marketing messages should be. And that was the case with Charles Schwab, who really felt, and it seems very logical, that customers wanted to have a very strong control over their finances. We went out and did a lot of narrative work for them and found out there were a variety of narratives, including one that was even much larger and relevant. And that was people don't want to have control. They want to be able to kind of like set it and forget it and trust in working with someone who's going to be handling it for them. Consequently, Schwab went out and changed their whole marketing strategy for 2 or 3 years as a result of that. So that's one example.
Got it. And did the marketing strategy change in that they took multiple messages to market based on the different things that you guys found, or did they land on a single line of messaging that they felt played better than what they had before?
In this case, it was a single line of messaging that played better before, but it also allowed them the opportunity to track the impact of that message on narratives as they move forward into the future. I mean, that's the beauty. Usually when we engage with a customer, we will check the narrative landscape, what people are saying. It could be about an industry. It could be about a brand. It could be around a specific point of interest. And so we will set that narrative landscape for them, and they'll see where are the big narratives, the hot point narratives. What are the narratives that aren't going to change over time? What are the narratives that they can influence? And what are some emerging narratives? Emerging narratives can be quite interesting for new product development or new market opportunities that people aren't aware of. And of course, people want to understand the narratives of certain broad swaths of, like, everyone wants to understand millennial narratives. But when you take those and apply those to specific markets, you can find some very, very interesting opportunities.
Got it. And so when we were talking about this offline, Robert, you'd mentioned it's one thing to understand the narrative, and then it's another to really understand what the action is that you need to take based on those narratives. Talk to us a little bit more about that.
Sure. So when we engage with customers, the first thing that we do is we go, as I said, go back 6 months, build out kind of a benchmark, a narrative analysis and strategy to really see where they are at a single point of time. We then make recommendations and even do that in the very tactical format, which we call a narrative playbook, which allows them to literally to say, okay, here are the channels that you can influence. Here are the influencers that you can influence. Here's where you should be, placing your marketing bets.
All right. So being able to see this right in front of them, and you guys actually giving your customers suggestions on where they should be making these marketing bets. Robert, is there anything else around this idea of narrative analytics that you think our listeners need to understand before they really start to dive into this and really look at the impact that it can have on their own brand?
Yeah, I think the things they have to ask themselves is, what are they doing today, right? And we've talked, about traditional market research. We've talked about the focus groups. We've talked about the surveys. And, the old adage in marketing, I know 50% of my marketing budget is effective. I just can't tell you what 50%. And I really believe in issues around brand or around perception and belief. That is like the last bastion that hasn't been captured by data. So much of marketing and marketing analytics and marketing automation, certainly has the ability to capture specific metrics that allow marketers to take action. That's a really hard one, and has traditionally been a hard one around brand and around perception and around brand value and a brand equity. And that's what I think narrative analytics brings. It brings now hard data to what used to be a pretty soft art, if you will.
That makes perfect sense. Robert, if there's somebody listening to this and they want to dig deeper on narrative analytics, they want to connect with you or they want to learn more about Protagonist, what's the best way for them to go about doing both of those things?
Yeah, I would suggest they go to our website, protagonist.io, and I'm more than happy to talk to people directly, so please reach out to me through email, and that's rcarroll, RCARROLL, @protagonist.io.
Love it. Awesome, Robert. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has been fantastic. I know it's going to be super valuable for our listeners. We definitely have not talked about narrative analytics before, so I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, James. I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
To ensure that you never miss an episode of the B2B Growth Show, subscribe to the show on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. This guarantees that every episode will get delivered directly to your device.
If you or someone you know would be an incredible guest for the B2B Growth Show, email me at jonathan@sweetfishmedia.com. Let us know. We love connecting with B2B executives, and we love sharing their wisdom and perspective with our audience.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.